They tore through my daughter's treehouse like it was tissue paper, not the sacred gift left behind by a dying mother. 3 enforcers in Anna Dramanesque uniforms were dismantling the final birthday present my wife, Sarah, ever gave our 9-year-old, Emma, while my little girl screamed in horror. My coffee mug slipped from my hand and shattered on the kitchen floor as fury surged through every nerve in my body. These suburban dictators had no clue they just picked a fight with the wrong a former Secret Service agent who had taken bullets for presidents. Where are you watching from? Leave a comment below, because what happened next made Anna's president wish she'd never heard the name Marcus Sullivan. I thought back to the day we moved into Maplewood Gardens 3 months after Sarah had lost her battle with cancer. Emma had barely spoken a word since. She'd spend hours alone in her room, clinging to her mother's old sweater like it was the only thing keeping her grounded. The treehouse was meant to be her safe space, a quiet escape, a place where her mother's presence could still be felt. Sarah had drawn the blueprints in her final weeks, her hands weak and trembling with every stroke of the pencil. "Promise me, Marcus," she whispered. "Build this for her. She'll need somewhere to dream when I'm gone." And I did. Every plank, every nail, every step of that rope ladder was a piece of that promise. I worked weekends for 6 weeks straight, battling exhaustion and grief. I used reclaimed oak from an old barn because Sarah always adored the soul of weathered wood. The treehouse had a hidden compartment for Emma's little treasures, a reading nook with a skylight perfect for stargazing, and wind chimes crafted from seashells we collected on our last vacation to the Outer Banks. Even the local hardware store owner, Bill Morrison, chipped in, handing me paint cans with rough, caring hands. "Lost my Martha 2 years ago," he said, voice gravelly. "There's a broken bar, this means something." Then came Donna Fitzgerald, the president of Anna Dramanesque, standing in my yard like she held the deed to the soil. Her manicured finger pointed accusingly at the treehouse. "This structure violates community aesthetic guidelines," she declared with the kind of tone only found in power-drunk suburban rulebooks. Behind her stood her 2 goons, Rick Barnes, a former bouncer who looked like he could bench press his own ego, and Janet Torres, the association's accountant, who held her clipboard like it contained missile launch codes. The morning sun cast sharp shadows across their faces as they surveyed the scene like it was a battlefield. Rick had already yanked down the rope ladder, the same one Emma practiced climbing for weeks until her hands were red and proud. Janet circled the structure, snapping photos like it was evidence from a crime scene. And in a way it was. They showed up at exactly 7:15 a.m., knowing most neighbors would be at work, hoping to bulldoze their way through without witnesses. But Mrs. Henderson from across the street was already at her window, phone in hand, calling the others. Emma had wrapped her little arms around the base of the tree, sobbing uncontrollably. "Daddy, a broken bar, this is Mommy's house. She made it for me." Her words hit like a sledgehammer. I saw Sarah's face in that moment. I heard her laughter. My throat tightened, but I pushed it down. Secret Service training kicked in. Compartmentalize, analyze, respond. I stepped out onto the porch, voice calm despite the chaos inside. "You've got 10 seconds to leave my property." The whole street seemed to freeze. Even the birds stopped singing. Donna's smug expression faltered for a split second when she saw the way I stood, feet planted, shoulders square, the stance of someone who'd faced real threats, not hobullies. Rick, pumped full of fake authority, either missed the warning or didn't care. He lifted a crowbar and started moving toward the treehouse's main beam. 9 seconds, I said, eyes locked on him. Rick cracked his knuckles as if that would intimidate me. "You gonna do something? Call the cops?" "We're in the right here, pal," he said, gesturing to the papers Donna was flapping like a flag. I glanced at Emma still clutching the tree and then back at Rick. A small, cold smile curved my lips, the kind that made foreign dignitaries squirm back when I stood between them and danger. "No," I said evenly, "I've got something better in mind. Something that'll make people like you regret ever stepping foot in my yard." The showdown ended with Donna and her little gang backing off, but not before she slapped me with a $5,000 fine for unauthorized construction. As their SUV rolled down Maple Street, I dropped to my knees beside Emma and wiped her tears. "It's okay, sweetheart. Daddy's not going to let them take your treehouse." She looked at me with her mother's green eyes. tears glistening like stars. "Promise?" I wrapped her in my arms, the weight of another promise settling in. "Promise." That night, after Emma finally drifted off, clutching her stuffed unicorn, I sat at the kitchen table with a glass of bourbon and Donna's citation. Something about the fine amount struck me. It wasn't rounded like most HOA penalties. Odd. I opened my laptop and started digging through public records. Anna Drama-Nest meeting minutes, anything tied to our charming president. 3 hours and 2 bourbons later, I had a timeline that could make a forensic accountant cry. The more I found, the clearer the pattern became. HOA fines were never even numbers. $3,200 here, $5,400 there, always matching shortfalls in the monthly financial reports. I dug deeper, comparing property records and violations. The common thread: every family Donna had targeted had young children. The Washingtons were fined $4,000 over their son's basketball hoop. The Riveras got hit for $6,500 over their daughter's playhouse. The Linds, $3,800 for a swing set previously approved by the last board. Donna Fitzgerald had moved into Maplewood Gardens 5 years ago, right after her second divorce. The court records painted a vivid picture: failed law career, disbarred for financial misconduct, lost a nasty custody battle. And now she'd taken over the Anna Drama-Nest and turned it into her personal playground of control. Within 6 months, Donna had strategically replaced the board members with loyal allies of her choosing. Since then, Anna Drama-Nest fees had skyrocketed by a staggering 300%, and suspicious special assessments began appearing every time someone dared question her authority. Her climb to power was nothing short of calculated. She started by volunteering for every committee, positioning herself as the backbone of the community. Then, she began cataloging minor violations, quietly building detailed files on every homeowner. When the former president, elderly Mr. Jameson, tried to curb her growing influence, he suddenly found himself facing allegations of financial misconduct. Though the charges were dropped soon after he resigned, the message was unmistakable: crossing Donna Fitzgerald came with consequences. Within a year, she had maneuvered her way into full control, installing her own board through a series of special elections that always happened to have mysteriously low turnout. The next morning, I sat at my home office window and watched Donna as she made her usual rounds. She moved from house to house, ruler in hand, to measure grass lengths, taking photos of minor infractions, and scribbling notes onto her tablet. But when she reached my property, she stopped, her eyes locked on Emma's treehouse. Her expression wasn't just critical, it was calculating. I'd seen that look before, back when I was protecting VIPs. It was the gaze of someone strategizing their next attack. What made me pause, though, was the moment she arrived at her own home. She stopped and looked up at a second-story window. For a fleeting second, something cracked in her expression: pain, regret, maybe loneliness. Whatever it was, it vanished as quickly as it came. Her daily routine was almost obsessive. She visited each home like clockwork, spending exactly 12 minutes at every stop. She always ended her route at the small neighborhood park, where mothers often brought their children. She'd sit silently on a bench facing the playground, watching the families with a piercing intensity that made parents visibly uneasy. A few had even started to leave the moment she showed up. But that day, something shifted. She sat longer than usual, gripping her clipboard so tightly her knuckles turned white, her eyes fixated on one mother pushing her daughter on the swing set. 2 days later, Janet Torres appeared at my door, clearly shaken. "Mr. Sullivan, a broken bar. Yeah, I need to speak with you," she said, glancing nervously over her shoulder like Donna might leap out of the bushes at any second. I invited her in, noting the way she kept checking her phone. "I saw what happened to Emma at the playground yesterday," she began, her voice barely audible. "The way Tommy Barnes was taunting her, a broken bar, calling her name as a broken bar." She swallowed hard. "I had a daughter once. She'd be about Emma's age now." Her voice cracked. From her purse, she pulled out a USB drive and set it on the table. "I can't keep watching another child get hurt. Thee's a broken bar. This has everything. The real financial debt and not the sanitized versions Donna shares at meetings." My pulse quickened as I plugged the drive into my laptop. The screen filled with spreadsheets that told the real story. Systematic theft going back 3 years. The $5,000 fines? They weren't random, they matched the exact amount missing from last month's maintenance fund. But that wasn't all. There were fake contracts issued to Titan Construction for projects that were never completed, kickbacks disguised as consulting fees, even proof of tampered vote counts during board elections. I looked at Janet. She was twisting what used to be her wedding ring, of the pale outline still visible on her finger. "Why now?" I asked. She met my eyes, tears threatening to fall. "Because yesterday, I heard Donna laughing a broken bar about making the widower pay. She called Emma a charity case." I've been silent too long. Her hands trembled as she pulled up texts on her phone. "Delete the Rodriguez complaint. Match March's payment to the version I showed the board. Don't forget your job depends on your discretion." The messages stretched back over 2 years, a digital breadcrumb trail of manipulation and intimidation. "She's got dirt on everyone," Janet whispered. For me, it was a DUI from Collegia. Somehow it popped up in a background check. Rick, his ex-wife, gets alimony. Donna threatened to have her investigated for fraud. She sighed. "Broken. We're all trapped." That evening, as I sat helping Emma with her math homework, she asked the question I had been dreading. "Daddy, a broken bar. Why does Mrs. Fitzgerald hate us?" I put down the pencil and pulled her gently onto my lap, searching for the words to help her understand. Outside, the spring sky glowed with Sarah's favorite colors, soft golds and warm pinks. "Sometimes, sweetheart, a broken bar. People who are hurting inside want others to hurt too. It doesn't make it right, but that's what happens." Emma nodded slowly, her eyes reflecting more understanding than most adults could muster. "Like Tommy Barnes, he's mean at school, a broken bar because his parents fight all the time." I kissed her forehead, awed by her wisdom. "Exactly like that, baby, exactly like that." Later that night, sleep eluded me. I found myself in the garage, rummaging through boxes we still hadn't unpacked since the move. In the third box, I found Dida Sarah's journal from her final months. Her handwriting, once graceful and elegant, had become shaky toward the end. One entry stood out. "Marcus is so strong for Emma, but I worry a broken bar. Who will be strong for him? The treehouse isn't just for her, it's for him too. A place to remember joy when the grief becomes too heavy." I closed the journal, my hands trembling as the tears finally slipped past the wall I'd been holding up for far too long. Outside, the moonlight streamed through the windows of the treehouse, casting gentle patterns on the ground, patterns that somehow reminded me of Sarah's smile. I climbed back into bed, only for my phone to buzz with a text from an unknown number. "Stop digging or things will get ugly. You've been warned." I took a screenshot, adding it to my growing digital folder of evidence. Another buzz, another message. "Nice security system. Too bad it can't see everything." A chill ran down my spine. I had personally installed our surveillance system using top-tier consumer-grade gear. How did they know? I checked the feeds and everything was running normally. No signs of tampering. But the message was crystal clear. Donna had access to resources I hadn't accounted for. If she wanted a war, she was about to find out what happened when you provoked a former Secret Service agent protecting the last thing his daughter had from her mother. The battle lines were drawn and I was just getting started. I grabbed my phone and made a call to Tom Mitchell, my old partner from the service. "Tom, it's Marcus. I need a favor." "You up for a little suburban recon?" His laugh came through sharp and knowing. "Thought you'd never ask, brother. I'll be there tomorrow." The game had shifted, but I'd never been one to back down. The next few weeks became a chess match of surveillance and counter-surveillance. I turned our home into an intel hub that would have impressed my old colleagues. Microcameras, barely bigger than buttons, were installed across the property, hidden in bird feeders, inside garden gnomes, even tucked into Emma's old dollhouse on the front porch. The symbolism wasn't lost on me. I was now using my daughter's toys to protect her safe haven. I started keeping a journal, no ordinary journal, but one written in a cipher I had learned during my early training. It documented everything: dates, times, witnesses, financial gaps. If anything happened to me, Emma was to hand it over to Tom Mitchell, now running private security in the city. "Like a secret spy book?" she'd asked, eyes wide with fascination. "Exactly like that, princess," I'd answered, heartbreaking at the fact she even needed to be involved. Meanwhile, Donna was ramping up her tactics with military-like precision. She called an emergency Anadrama-nest board meeting to vote on the removal of any dangerous structures lowering property values. The notice came stapled to a packet that included high-resolution photos of Emma's treehouse taken from angles that could only have come from inside our property. She had also brought on 2 new enforcement officers who made a habit of slowly driving by our home at all hours, always watching. But the pressure didn't stop at our yard. One morning, I got a call from Mrs. Patterson, Emma's school principal. She asked me to come in to discuss a concern. Apparently, there had been anonymous reports suggesting Emma's home environment might be unstable. Mrs. Patterson, a kind soul nearing retirement, looked deeply uncomfortable. "Mr. Sullivan, a broken bar. I've known Emma since her first day here. She's a sweet, intelligent child who's already endured too much loss. But I have to follow protocol on these complaints. A broken bar." Her eyes said what her mouth didn't. She knew exactly where the complaints were coming from. That evening, I was reviewing surveillance footage when something struck me. Donna often appeared at her front window around dusk. She wasn't watching the treehouse. She was watching us Amy and Emma playing in the yard, reading on the porch, laughing over homework. Her face in those moments revealed something raw, a blend of yearning and bitterness, a face haunted by what could have been. I decided to dig deeper into her past. What I uncovered in the county records left me stunned. 15 years ago, Donna had been pregnant. The baby girl was stillborn. Her husband filed for divorce just 3 months later, citing emotional withdrawal and obsessive behavior. 2 years after that, her law license was revoked for financial misappropriation of money that, it turned out, she'd used on fertility treatments. The woman waging war on my daughter wasn't just a control-obsessed bureaucrat. She was someone whose dream of motherhood had shattered a broken bar and who now couldn't bear to see others living the life she'd lost. That night, Emma woke up sobbing from a nightmare. I rushed to her side, holding her close, stroking her hair just like Sarah used to. Between sobs, she whispered, "What if they take the treehouse, Daddy? What if they take you too?" My heart cracked open. This wasn't just about zoning codes or HOA rules anymore. It was about a grieving little girl who'd already lost one parenta and was now being emotionally attacked by someone broken enough to destroy what joy she had left. "Look at me, Emma," I said gently, lifting her chin. "No one is taking me away, and no one is taking your treehouse. Mommy and I built it with love, and love is stronger than any rule they try to use against us." I tucked her in and stepped quietly into my own room. I paused at the window. The treehouse stood in silhouette beneath the stars, with Sarah's hand-painted Emma's castle sign glowing faintly in the moonlight. I opened my laptop, attached Janet's files and my own surveillance logs, and began typing an email to my friend, an attorney with a knack for civil litigation. If Donna wanted to weaponize the system, I was ready to show her what it felt like when that system pushed back. But before I could hit send, a broken bar, my security monitor flickered. Movement. It was Rick. Barnes was in my backyard, creeping toward the garage. I grabbed my phone and moved downstairs, heart pounding, and not with fear, but with the same focused adrenaline I'd felt while guarding presidents. Whatever he thought he was after, he was about to discover why breaking into a former Secret Service agent's home was a catastrophic mistake. I slipped silently out the back door, gliding across the lawn. Rick was bent over the side door of the garage, prying at the lock, completely absorbed. He never heard me approach. "Lose something?" I asked casually. He spun around so fast he nearly dropped the crowbar. In the moonlight, I saw panic flicker across his face. "Donna told me to grab the blue box," he stammered. "Said you took it from the Anadrama-nest storage. Said it belonged to them." A chill swept through me. The blue box was Sarah's memory chest. It held her wedding ring, her journal, and most importantly, the audio messages she had recorded for Emma before she passed away, words meant for future birthdays, school graduations, even her wedding day. Messages to guide our daughter through life without her mother. "Leave, now," I said, my voice low and ice cold. Rick backed away, but his swagger returned once he reached the sidewalk. "You'll regret this, Sullivan. Donna's got big plans for you." As he disappeared into the night, it hit me Donna wasn't just coming after the treehouse anymore. She was targeting Sarah's legacy, a broken bar, the last pieces of her that still lived in our home. This had just turned personal. The thought of Donna trying to steal that memory box shattered something in me. Since Sarah died, I'd worked hard to maintain control for Emma's sake, but this was unforgivable. That box wasn't just a container, it was filled with Sarah's voice, her hopes, her dreams for Emma, and her love for both of us. It was the fragile bridge connecting past and present, and Donna had tried to rip it away. The following morning, Donna arrived at my door with 2 police officers flanking her. "This man assaulted my employee last night," she announced, theatrically pointing in my direction. Behind her, Rick stood with a black eye, one I definitely hadn't given him. "He attacked me," Rick lied smoothly. "I was just out walking my dog." I recognized both Officer Martinez and Williams, solid guys I'd met at a community fundraiser. Officer Martinez gave Donna a skeptical glance. "Mr. Sullivan, can you tell us your side of the story?" I invited them inside and queued up the security footage. On screen, they saw Rick clearly trying to break into my garage. "As you can see, officers, Mr. Barnes was attempting to unlawfully enter my property. I asked him to leave. That's all." The footage showed Rick retreating without a scratch. Officer Williams turned to Donna and Rick. "Filing a false police report is a serious matter." But Donna wasn't done yet. She shifted tactics with practiced ease. "Fine," she huffed. "Then I'm pressing charges for assault based on what happened at the Anadroma Nest meeting last week." She produced a manila folder stuffed with printed statements. "Multiple witnesses saw Mr. Sullivan threaten me." The so-called witnesses, her hand-picked board members, all claiming, word for word, that I had made verbal threats and aggressive gestures during the last community meeting. It was clearly choreographed, just believable enough to force the officers to act. They apologized but said protocol required them to take me in for questioning. "Daddy?" Emma's voice froze the moment. She stood at the top of the stairs in her pajamas, clutching her stuffed unicorn. Her eyes were wide with terror. "Are they taking you away?" Something broke inside me. I turned to Rick, fury rising like a storm. "You want to scare a little girl who's already lost her mother? What kind of man are you?" I stepped forward in anger, the words barely out of my mouth. Rick, whether genuinely frightened or playing the role, stumbled backward, fell, and cried out dramatically. It happened fast, but I knew instantly I'd made a mistake. Donna's eyes gleamed with triumph. "You all saw that?" she cried. "He attacked Rick again." The next few hours blurred together, handcuffed in front of my daughter, Emma's screams echoing as I was led to the squad car. The booking process, the constant, aching thought that my little girl was now alone, afraid that her only parent was being taken from her too. Tom posted my bail within hours, but the damage was already done. A temporary restraining order was issued to 500 feet. I couldn't go near Donna or Rick, which meant I was banned from attending Anadroma Nest board meetings where my fate would be decided. That night, my hands trembling, I sat down to record a message for Emma. "Sweetheart, a broken bar if Daddy can't be with you for a while. Remember what Mommy always told you. Brave girls can do hard things, and I need you to be brave now, okay? Stay with Uncle Tom. Keep our journal safe, and know that Daddy loves you, a broken bar more than all the stars in the sky." I saved the recording to multiple drives. The irony not lost on me, I was now creating my own messages, just like Sarah, in case I couldn't be there for my daughter. Things took an even darker turn when Donna filed for an emergency custody hearing, claiming I was unstable and dangerous and unfit to care for a child. Her attorney, a former associate who clearly owed her more than just professional favors. In court documents, he painted me as a grieving widower who had snapped under the weight of loss, now posing a threat to his daughter's safety. The hearing was scheduled for the following week. I had mere days to prepare a defense. And then a broken bar. Emma did something no one expected. That night, in the dark, on her own, she rode her bike 3 miles to find me. Anna burst through the community center's glass door where I was meeting with our attorney, her cheeks streaked with tears, gripping the framed photo of the 3 of us from our living room wall. "My mommy is the best mommy in the world," she cried out to the entire lobby. She only got mad because they tried to steal Daddy's voice. "Please don't take her away." The room fell still. The desk clerk, an older woman with silvery hair and gentle eyes, turned away discreetly, dabbing at her face with a tissue. At the back of the room, Janet Torres stood frozen. Something shifted in her expression. Doubt turned to steel. She stepped forward, pulled a small USB from her pocket, and placed it into our lawyer's hand. "This has everything," she said quietly. "The financials, the altered records, Donna's plans to drive out any family that doesn't fit her vision. There's even proof she bribed the last board president to resign." Janet's voice caught as she looked down at Anna, who was still wrapped around my waist. "I lost my son to cancer 3 years ago. I can't stand by and watch another child lose the only parent she has left to that woman's obsession." That moment changed everything, but Donna still had one final move. At the emergency custody hearing, her attorney unveiled a sealed psychiatric evaluation alleging I was unstably prone to paranoia and delusional thinking triggered by unresolved grief. The psychiatrist, Dr. Harold Benson, testified that I was emotionally volatile and posed a threat to Anna's mental well-being. What he didn't mention, his firm had received over $90,000 in consulting fees from Nest Vision, a subdivision of Titan Estates, the real estate developer cozy with Donna Nest and her board. Thankfully, the judge wasn't easily impressed. "I want to hear from neutral parties," she said. "Teachers, neighbors, the family doctor. No custody decisions will be made without hearing from those who actually know the child." The hearing was postponed for 2 weeks, giving us time to prepare, but as we were leaving the courthouse, Donna brushed past us, her voice low and venomous. "You think this is a win? I haven't even started. That castle is coming down, and your daughter? She's going to watch every nail fall." That night, I tucked Anna in and held her longer than usual. "Are we going to lose?" she whispered, burying her face into my chest. I kissed her head, breathing in the soft lavender scent of her shampoo, with the same one Sarah used to use. "Sometimes in battles, things feel darkest right before morning," I said gently. "That's what your mommy always believed." Anna nodded slowly. Then, with a surprising strength in her voice, she said, "Mommy also told me that bullies are just scared people pretending to be strong." I blinked back tears. Even now, Sarah's wisdom lived in our daughter. After she drifted off to sleep, I sat in the quiet living room and opened Sarah's old journal. Her handwriting stared back at me. "Evil thrives when good people do nothing but challenge it, and it reveals itself. Trust that it always finds its way into the light." I closed the book, looked out at the treehouse silhouetted against the sky, and made my decision. Tomorrow, we would stop reacting and start fighting back. The folder Paul handed me was damning. Multiple doctors had diagnosed Donna with narcissistic personality disorder, coupled with paranoid traits. "She's not just difficult," he said grimly. "She's genuinely unstable." Inside the documents were hospital records, lists of medications she routinely ignored, and worst of all, a letter from her former law partner describing how she had embezzled client funds to pay for experimental fertility treatments. "She always went after families with children," Paul continued. "It was like she couldn't stand to see what she couldn't have." After I filed for divorce, she tried to have me arrested for domestic abuse, espionage, even child endangerment, and we didn't even have kids. She'll say or do anything to win. Armed with those revelations, I began reaching out to the families Donna Nest had driven out of Maplewood Gardens. Social media made it easy to find them. One by one, the stories poured in, each a familiar pattern. The Wheelers were fined repeatedly because their daughter drew chalk doodles on the driveway. The Patels were constantly written up for maintaining a garden with native plants and cultural significance. The Martinez family endured 6 months of non-stop citations and neighbor complaints until they sold their house for a loss. All these families had one thing in common: young children, and each had been systematically pushed out by Donna and her enforcers. Then, at exactly the right moment, Rick Barnes switched sides. His own son had become the target of schoolyard Scarnet called the Ho Bullies kid and banned from birthday parties. "Our parents don't want the mean Ho people near us," one classmate had said. Something cracked in Rick. He showed up at Tom's house one evening, shoulders slumped, eyes downcast. "I never meant to hurt kids," he muttered. "I just needed the paycheck." But when I heard Donna on the phone yesterday, planning to file a false CPS report against HOA for letting Anna see a grief counselor. He shook his head. That's too far, I'm out. Rick's intel was a bombshell. Donna wasn't just corrupt, she was collaborating with Councilman Stephen Harper to rezone Maplewood Gardens for high-density housing. The plan? Make life so unbearable that homeowners would sell out cheap to Harper's development firm. In return, Donna would receive $1 million consulting fee and a luxury penthouse in the planned complex. The community garden, the playground, the entire neighborhood's identity all marked for destruction. I threw myself into preparation. Days were spent organizing evidence, designing presentations, and preparing for the most pivotal home meeting in Maplewood Gardens history. Tom leveraged his security contacts to ensure the meeting would be safe in case things went sideways. But the night before, as I sat reviewing my notes, my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. Donna's voice, calm and clinical, slid into my ear like a blade. I know where Anna is, Marcus. Tom's house is charming, as so many big windows. His kids play outside like nothing's wrong. And Anna, she sleeps so soundly, just like her mother must be. A broken bar near the end, peaceful, so broken bar vulnerable. Her words froze my blood. This wasn't about property anymore. Donna had just crossed into dangerous, unhinged territory. I called Tom instantly. She knows where Anna is. Tom's voice turned steely. I'm already on it. House is covered, inside and out. She's bluffing, Marcus. Desperate people say crazy things, but I'd spent my career protecting people from desperation. I knew the signs. Donna wasn't just flailing, as she was preparing to break something. That night, I sat at the window, watching the empty street, thinking of Sarah. What would she do? The answer came in a memory of Sarah facing down a belligerent man outside a restaurant years ago. She hadn't shouted or panicked. She'd stayed calm, firm, grounded. Bullies want you to meet them at their level, she'd said later. If you daunt a broken bar, they have no idea what to do. By morning, my phone was buzzing with messages. Neighbors I barely knew were speaking up. We're with you. Donna doesn't represent us. Let's save our neighborhood. Word about the redevelopment scheme had spread. People were furious, and not just about the fraud, but about how their homes, memories, and futures were being sold out behind their backs. This was no longer my battle alone. It had started with a treehouse, a small gift from a dying mother to her little girl. Now, it was a community uprising. As I got dressed for the meeting, Anna peeked into the room. Daddy? She said softly. I had a dream about Mommy last night. She told me to tell you something. I swallowed, bracing. What did she say, sweetheart? Anna smiled gently. She said, the truth is like a hummingbird. It might fly backwards sometimes, but it always finds the sweetest flowers. Tears spilled down my face. My 9-year-old daughter had just given me the final push I needed. The meeting was scheduled for 7 p.m. at the community center. By 6:30, the streets were lined with cars. Donna had expected maybe 24 residents. Instead, over 200 people filled the room, with dozens more standing in the hall. Whatever happened tonight, Maplewood Gardens would never be the same again. I adjusted my tie, the same one I wore on presidential protection detail, and prepared for the most important mission of my life. Not protecting a dignitary, a broken bar, but defending my daughter's home, her memories, and her future. There was a charge in the air, a kind of intensity I hadn't felt since my days organizing security for state functions. Donna sat stiffly at the head table, flanked by the board members she'd handpicked to support her. But tonight, they looked as shaken as she did. She had dressed for a routine home meeting, probably expecting to rubber stamp a few motions and leave. Instead, she found herself sitting before what looked more like a tribunal. Stephen Harper, the city councilman, lounged smugly in the front row, oozing the confidence of someone who believed his political power made him untouchable. But he was about to discover that in Maplewood Gardens, the residents had their own kind of influence. I entered with my legal team beside me and Tom close behind, accompanied by 3 of his colleagues, former federal agents who had worked high-level protection details. As we moved down the aisle, the crowd parted silently, murmurs trailing us to the front. Anna was Safia miles away at Tom's sister's house, guarded by people who had taken bullets in the line of duty. Donna's attempt at intimidation had backfired spectacularly. It had only galvanized our cause and activated Tom's entire professional network. Donna stood, her voice lacking the arrogance she normally carried. "This is highly irregular. Home meetings must follow protocol." She didn't get far. Margaret Wheeler, whose family Donna had driven out years earlier, rose to her feet. "You want to talk protocol, Donna? How about the protocol for stealing 50 grand in homeowner dues?" The room erupted. I raised a hand, motioning for calm, then opened my laptop and linked it to the projector. "Ladies and gentlemen," I began, my voice steady with the calm authority I once used to brief the Secret Service. "What you're about to see isn't just financial misconduct, it's a calculated betrayal of the community we built together." The first slide came up, a graph showing a steady increase in HOA fees that directly matched spikes in Donna's personal spending. Gasps and angry whispers filled the room. Slide after slide laid out the tangled web of corruption and kickbacks, inflated construction bids, connections to Titan Construction. Janet Torres, seated in the third row, gave me a firm nod as her own documentation appeared on screen. Donna tried to shout over the presentation, "These accusations are absurd, I demand a..." But Rick Barnes stood, cutting her off. "They're not absurd. I was there. I helped you threaten the Martinez family. I watched you fabricate violations at the Patel's house. I recorded everything." He held up his phone. The room fell silent as Donna's voice echoed through the speakers. "I don't care if their garden is part of their culture. Find something wrong with it. These people need to learn their place." Each sentence was another nail in the coffin, but the room froze when Stephen Harper's voice joined hers. "Once enough of them leave, I can push through the rezoning. Just the development rights are worth $15 million. Your cut will be more than enough to buy your own neighborhood." Harper's cocky grin evaporated. He stood abruptly and turned toward the door only to be met by two men in suits, flashing FBI badges. "Stephen Harper," one said, "we'd like to ask you some questions about your connections to Titan Construction and irregularities in recent city development contracts." Tom caught my eye and gave a subtle wink. He'd made a few well-placed calls, and the feds who had been quietly investigating Harper now had the last pieces of the puzzle. As Harper was escorted out, Donna's composure shattered. She stood abruptly, knocking her water glass over, finger trembling as she pointed straight at me. "You think this is over? You think any of this matters? I still have the votes. I still control this board." But her board members were already backing away, physically distancing themselves. Janet Torres stood up. "I resign as treasurer, effective immediately, and I'll be testifying at your trial, Donna." Then came the final blow from Paul Fitzgerald. He walked in carrying a cardboard box. "These are Donna's personal files from our marriage," he announced, including documentation of her plans to, quote, cleanse this neighborhood of breeders who flaunt their perfect families." He looked at Donna with something close to sorrow. "You've needed help for a long time. Please he get it." Donna's mask fell completely. "Help?" she spat. "I don't need help. I need justice. You all, every one of you, have what was taken from me. Children, families, love." Her voice cracked as she shouted, "My baby died. She died. And you all just kept living like the world wasn't shattered." A heavy silence settled over the room. Even in victory, I felt something unexpected, a pity. Pity for a woman so consumed by loss that she'd weaponized her grief against everyone else. But pity didn't erase what she had done. Two more FBI agents entered, badges visible. "Donna Fitzgerald," one said, "you're under arrest for embezzlement, fraud, and conspiracy to commit real estate fraud." As they read her rights, Donna didn't resist. Something in her expression softened. She looked relieved. "It's over," she whispered. "Finally over." As they led her away, the room burst into emotion. Some cried, others hugged, many just stood in stunned silence, processing the magnitude of what had unfolded. Through the noise, my thoughts were elsewhere, on Anna, on Sarah, on the treehouse that started all of this. Just then, my phone buzzed, a text from Tom's sister. A photo of Anna asleep, clutching her unicorn, lit up my phone screen. Safe, protected, free to grow up in a neighborhood that had just reclaimed its soul. The emergency election that followed was swift. Margaret Wheeler was unanimously chosen as the new HOA president, and her first act was to void every legal amendment Donna had forced through. Rick Barnes, looking for redemption, volunteered to lead a new community watch program. Janet Torres took charge of a financial transparency committee. Healing had begun, but I still had one last mission. That night, I returned to the house alone. The treehouse stood strong under the moonlight, worn but proud. It had survived the war, just like us. I climbed up the ladder and sat in the tiny space Sarah had once designed, my fingers brushing the wooden walls she'd sanded with such care. From my jacket, I pulled out her old voice recorder and hit play. Sarah's voice filled the still night air. "Anna, my sweet girl. If you're listening to this, it means Mommy can't be there to tuck you in, but know this, every star you see is me watching over you, every warm breeze is me hugging you tight." I stayed there until dawn, listening to message after message, letting the tears fall freely. The war was over. We had won, but victory, I realized, wasn't just about removing Donna. It was about honoring Sarah's legacy. It was about protecting Anna's innocence. It was about proving that real love was stronger than hate, stronger than grief, stronger than any force that tried to rip families apart. As the sun rose over Maplewood Gardens, I felt Ida Sarah was smiling somewhere, proud of what we had protected, and proud of what we had become. The aftermath of Donna's arrest spread through the neighborhood like a healing wave. Properties that had sat on the market were taken off. Families that had considered moving away decided to stay. The air felt lighter, as though some heavy fog had finally lifted. But justice, I came to learn, isn't just about punishment. It's about restoration, about redemption. Donna's trial lasted 3 weeks. I attended every day as the prosecutors laid out the mountain of evidence we'd gathered. The final tally was damning. $73,000 embezzled over 3 years, 15 families systematically harassed, dozens of fake violations. She was sentenced to 5 years in federal prison for fraud and conspiracy. But her final words stayed with me. Looking straight at me, she said, "I became the monster I feared." When you lose everything, sometimes you forget that other people haven't. They've worked for what they have. "I'm sorry." Her voice cracked as she said it. The HOA went through a complete transformation after that. We rewrote the bylaws with input from every household. We established term limits. An oversight committee was formed. Rick Barnes's transformation was perhaps the most surprising of all. He started a free self-defense and conflict resolution program for local kids, teaching them not just to protect themselves, but to stand tall. His son and Anna became close, bonding over comic books and their shared obsession with tree houses. Janet Torres, after resigning as treasurer, started volunteering at the children's hospital where her own daughter had once been treated. One day she called me, her voice trembling. "Marcusa Broken Bar, there's a little girl here, 8 years old, just lost her mom. Her dad's overwhelmed. She reminds me so much of Fat Broken Bar." She couldn't finish. Within a month, Janet began the process of becoming a foster parent. When she brought little Lily home, the entire neighborhood turned out for a welcome party. Anna gifted Lily a handmade dream catcher to hang in her new room. The treehouse became a kind of landmark. Kids gathered there after school while parents shared stories about forts they'd built in their own childhoods. One Saturday, as I watched Anna and her friends play pirates up in the branches, Margaret Wheeler walked over to me. "We'd like to make the treehouse an official neighborhood landmark," she said, "a symbol of what we fought for." The dedication ceremony took place on what would have been Sarah's 40th birthday. A brass plaque was mounted beneath the ladder. Anna's castle lay where dreams live forever. 5 months after Donna's conviction, I received a letter from her in prison. Her handwriting was smaller now, unsure. She wrote about therapy, about finally facing her grief, about the daughter she'd lost 15 years ago. Her name was Emily, she wrote. "I never said it out loud after she died. Thank you, a broken bar, for forcing me to confront what I became. Prison is hard, but living with that darkness was harder." I showed the letter to Anna, who read it carefully. Then she looked up and asked, "Should we write back, Daddy?" I nodded. "I think Mommy would want us to." Our response was simple. Anna drew a picture of our treehouse with a rainbow over it and wrote, "Dear Mrs. Fitzgerald, I'm sorry you lost Emily. I lost my mommy too. But she taught me that love doesn't end when people go to heaven. I hope you feel better. Love, Anna Sullivan. I added a short note and just a few lines about forgiveness and healing. We didn't expect a reply, but 6 weeks later, another letter arrived. Inside was a hand-drawn hummingbird, and shaky, but filled with care. The drawing was simple but unmistakably 2 words written beneath it: thank you. Life gradually settled into a new rhythm. Anna flourished in 4th grade. Her confidence fully returned. The nightmares stopped. She even performed in the school talent show, singing "Somewhere Over the Rainbow," Sarah's favorite song, with such bravery it brought the audience to tears. I kept working as a consultant on security matters but declined every offer to return to federal service. My mission now was here, in the community we had fought so hard to save. On the 1-year anniversary of that unforgettable night, we hosted a block party. Tables overflowed with potluck dishes, children raced through sprinklers, and neighbors, so many of whom had been strangers during Donna's dark reign, now laughed together like lifelong friends. Rick manned the grill. Janet helped Lily make flower crowns. Tom showed up with his family, his kids instantly joining the ever-growing treehouse crew. As the sun dipped below the horizon, I stood beside Anna, watching our chosen family gather, not just to celebrate a victory, but to embrace a new beginning. "Daddy," Anna said, tugging my hand, "can we play Mommy's recording? The one about the hummingbirds." We climbed into the treehouse together. I pulled out Sarah's recorder and hit play. Her voice drifted through the dusk. "You know why hummingbirds can fly backwards, Anna? It's so they can remember where the sweetest flowers were. Sometimes in life, we have to go back to find the good things again, but we always move forward toward new flowers and new joy." As Sarah's words faded, Anna pointed excitedly to the yard below. Hovering near Janet's fresh garden was an actual hummingbird, the first we'd seen since moving to Maplewood Gardens. It fluttered between the flowers before darting away into the twilight. Anna gave my hand a squeeze. "Mommy sent it," she whispered, with the kind of certainty only children can have. She wanted us to know at Broken Bar we found the sweet flowers again. 6 weeks later, my phone rang late at night. Tom's voice was laced with amused disbelief. "Marcus, you're not going to believe this. Remember those other HOA corruption cases the FBI mentioned? They want our help. Apparently, you've become something of a neighborhood fraud expert." I laughed, glancing out at our peaceful street. "Tell them I'm retired from the protection business. These days, I'm just a dad who builds tree houses." But as I hung up, my eyes landed on the blue box on the shelf, Sarah's memory box, now back where it belonged. Inside, tucked between cherished keepsakes, was the brass badge from my Secret Service days. Maybe, I thought, there was still room for one more mission, one more fight for families who deserved safety, because someone had to stand up to the Donna Fitzgeralds of the world. Someone had to guard the tree houses, the memories, the dreams of children who deserve to grow up feeling protected and deeply loved. Anna appeared in the doorway, rubbing her eyes. "Can't sleep, Daddy. Will you tell me the story again at Broken Bar about how we saved the neighborhood?" I pulled her into my lap, the way I had countless nights since Sarah passed. "Which part do you want to hear, sweetheart?" She snuggled in closer, her voice barely a whisper. "The part where the good guys win." As I began retelling our journey, I realized that it's exactly what had happened. The good guys had won, not through threats or force, but through unity, courage, and an unwavering belief that love is stronger than hate. Outside, stars glittered above Anna's castle, and somewhere in the night, a hummingbird likely dreamed of tomorrow's blossoms. In Maplewood Gardens, children slept soundly, watched over by parents who had learned something vital, that sometimes, the most meaningful battles aren't fought for countries or titles, a Broken Bar, but for the simple, sacred right to build a treehouse and call it home. Word of our battle with the HOA spread beyond Maplewood Gardens, inspiring other communities to stand tall against corruption. But to me, the true victory was something smaller, quieter, and infinitely more precious. The sound of Anna's laughter echoing from her treehouse, the sight of neighbors helping one another, just because they could, and the knowledge that Sarah's final gift to her daughter had become a beacon of hope for an entire neighborhood. Some legacies, I came to learn, aren't built with fame or fortune. They're built one board at a time, with love as the foundation. and courage as the nails that hold it all together.